I worked at Chaps with Dana Jacovitis and Stephen Burke for a long time.
Yeah, and
we
you
were like the
managed to-
three
Musketeers.
Yeah,
And you managed to maintain that balance for a long time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, a long time.
Because you all had very successful nights on your own. I mean, Stevens Tuesdays was very successful, right?
Absolutely.
Sure. T-Dance was very successful.
Yeah.
Your Fridays were very successful. Day Night Saturdays
you.
were very successful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Friday was different than Saturday.
Sure.
I mean, I wasn't a repeat of Dana and he wasn't
Right.
a repeat of Carol.
Right.
So you got different crowds in.
And different experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so you go to Chaps and you're there for a little while. Now, did you get a better offer from the Lyons Brothers to go to Boston, or did you maintain both places for a while, or what happened?
No, I stayed at the original Chaps. For 2 years, 1978 till the beginning of 1980.
Yeah.
And then Suki heard that a bar down the street was closing and 2 of the DJs needed jobs. So she cut me one of my shifts, and you know, I says, oh man, I can't do this. I don't even want to stay here,
Yeah.
you know. And I left.
Were you making your living primarily a DJ at
Oh
this
yeah,
point?
yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
you left.
So I left, and during that dry spell, I was talking to Wendy. We were great friends. I also respect her
Mm-hmm.
and her talent, and Jeff Tilton's as well. They had meetings at Boston monthly, and the Lions group planned college parties during the week nights to get more business, because that was the largest space in Boston. And Wendy actually helped getting me Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights at Boston, or whatever the name was at the time. And they would have college nights, which were basically straight nights. And that's where the learning came in. Okay, that's when the music was changing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the gay sound was sliding in one direction, and the straight crowd was going in another direction.
This is when the whole disco sucks movement started to percolate, right? 79, 80.
Yeah.
That's really when
Yeah.
it started to bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the time around Deborah Harry and Blondie
Yeah.
Call Me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
things
that
started to become more new wave,
was, right,
a little post-punk, that kind of stuff.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So the Lions Corporation redid the whole club over because they were known to do that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, you know, to revamp every few years. And they put in, video was big at the time. So they got the video jock, they got the fancy light system, and they had, you know, the turntables. And I walked in and they says, this is what you're gonna do. And I did it. And the crowd was teaching me while I was entertaining them.
Because this changed your playlist to some degree. You had to
yes.
lean on toward more pop,
Alternative.
punk and alternative music and all
Yes.
that. So this is a side of you that I don't think a lot of people might know, because
Right.
I think you took this approach and that aesthetic, you kind of took that with you to the 1270 for a while, right? I remember people saying they used to hear a lot of new wave and stuff from you at the 12 after that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and no,
Okay.
because I'll get to that.
Okay, all right.
If we have time.
We're gonna get there. We got
Okay,
time, but
I
I
know.
just don't. I don't want either one of us to forget that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay. Where was I?
You were still at the Lyons Brothers. They were teaching.
Okay,
The
yeah.
crowd was teaching you while you were entertaining them.
Right. And I was learning with the video jock, Joe Verange. He was fantastic. He would have all of these videos of all of these groups. And he would, once I put the song on the turntable and it was out on to the dance floor, that video came on. And it was like just magic appearing. And
Was it often the video of the artist that you were playing then?
and
Yeah.
it was going along.
Oh, synced up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was a genius as far as video was.
Do you remember how to spell his last name? Verange?
Verange.
Okay, that's what I wrote.
believe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because his name hasn't come up before now. You're
Oh,
the first person to mention it.
Well, I'm going to mention him
Yeah.
because, I mean, I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I did not want to give up the dance music idea either.
Mhm.
And I'd throw that in. And it was funny. During those years and during all the colleges in Boston, because Boston was always known as a college town and a rock and roll town. I lost my train of thought. I might as well tell them. I had a heart attack several years ago, and on my way to the hospital, Boston Medical Center, I lost oxygen to the brain, and
Right.
that's why this happens to me, and I have stents in me, and I'm on lots of medication.
Do you want to
and-
take a break right now?
No,
Okay.
no, you just have to lead me back to where
Sure.
I was talking.
Well, it was about the music changing. I mean, part of it, right? I mean, part of it was we were talking about the music changing, and it
Yes.
was a rock town, and the
Yes.
college crowd wanted to hear more of that, and so you worked more of that into your repertoire,
Right,
right?
but I didn't forget about the dance music,
Right.
because there was some good stuff coming out in the 1980s
Yeah.
also. all right?
But the major labels had stopped doing a lot of disco by then, right? I mean, a lot of it ended up coming out of Europe, and we'll talk about that development too, especially as it relates to your
Yeah.
store. Do you remember when you had to start going to Europe to get more interesting dance records, or was that always partially the case, or did it?
Well, Jerry Warren, before he established his record store, he was selling records out of the back of his car on, right in front of Chaps, I think, on Huntington Avenue.
Yeah.
You know, but there were labels that were putting out high energy, like Megatone
Yeah.
was, and then there were services that were coming out left and right, Hot Tracks, DiscoNet, etc., that gave the jocks what they wanted as far as the high energy was going.
Right.
Okay, but the domestic labels were doing fine in the 1980s.
Like dance music.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, were you you were a member of the record pool?
Yeah.
But didn't you become the secretary of the record pool at some point? Is that right?
I became associate coordinator
Of the pool.
of the record pool. Yeah.
Oh, when was that?
Oh God.
It was in the 80s.
Nine-
so-
No. 19. I think it was 1978.
Okay.
1978. John Luongo was still in Boston.
Okay.
Joey Carvello was still in Boston. Yeah. They were on their way to New York,
Right.
pursuing other interests. Yeah.
So you still saw an influx in the record pools of good dance music throughout the 80s as well?
Oh,
from
yeah.
Domestic labels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're in Boston, and I guess I'm assuming, or at least it sounds to me like, your repertoire or your aesthetic changed a little bit while you were there, would you say? Because of the incorporation of that music, of more new wave and stuff like that.
That's what the Lyons brothers asked me to
Yeah.
do, and of course I wanted to do the right thing, and I needed a paycheck,
Yeah.
so of course I did it. And I learned a lot with every college that booked a night at Boston. Like, it seemed like Harvard University was into more disco.
Uh-huh.
It was amazing.
So you could see differences based on the school.
Yes. And Northeastern was into more disco.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because as a DJ, your primary job, it seems to me, is to play for the people that are in the room, right?
Oh,
That's what you have to do.
absolutely.
Not for what the promoters or the owners or the managers hope is going to be there, for the crowd that they want to turn up, or the kind of music that they think the crowd wants to hear. You have to really just look at that room and say, this is who I have.
Yeah,
This is who I have to play for.
right.
So it becomes a tug of war sometimes, right, with a manager or an owner who says, I only want you to play this type of music, but if your crowd's not responding to that music, you have to kind of go in a different direction, just as from self-preservation as a DJ.
Yes, no, you're right. Yeah,
You have to do that.
yeah.
So is that how you ended up mixing genres? Because my recollection of you at Chaps because I didn't get to hear you a lot until you were at Chaps on Fridays.
Okay, that's after
Yeah.
like 4 renovations.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so
okay.
I feel like what my memory of you from that time was that you were able to mix genres in a really interesting way, in a way that some other DJs were doing too, but
Yeah.
but it really wasn't just disco, and it really wasn't just high energy, and it was a mixture of all kinds of
'Cause
genres.
there was all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Especially at the 1270.
Right, so let's talk about that. You go to the 12.
I go to the 1270, okay, and they put me on the first floor, the main floor.
Yeah.
Okay, and Stephen Strick from WBCN, which was the
Across
big
the street, yeah.
across the street, the big radio station. Linda Lawrence.
Oh,
And
Linda.
there was I hate forgetting names.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Hoover, God
Okay.
rest his soul also. They were the ones that started that sound on the first floor, because they figured, why should we do the same thing as a second floor? You have 3 floors, let's do different things, and it worked. Okay?
And this is after a couple of years at Boston that you went to the 12, right? So this
Yeah.
is the early 80s by then.
Right.
Okay.
And I took that knowledge and brought it over
To the 12.
to the 12. And how I ended up getting to the Jimmy Stewart floor, the second floor, was there was one New Year's Eve that they made so much money on the first floor while I was playing music. And it was so crowded that the owner or the manager of the club could not believe that that was happening, because the main floor of the 1270 was just, how can I say it? It was just a room you can hang out with, you can hang out in, you can dance in it, but the top floor was supposedly the prestigious floor, which I didn't understand that, but I blew them away and made that first floor the prestigious floor on that New Year's Eve.
So then they put you on the second floor.
Because
of
I
it.
took all the people that were straight from the Paradise, from Boston, and invited them over to the 1270. And it was such a mob scene and such an array of people, gay and straight, such a mixed crowd with mixed genres of music,
Mhm.
that, I mean, I was playing Planet Claire and going into Sylvester, and I'd see these hard rock punk people dancing till Sylvester, and I'm going, yes, you know, this is fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it went on all night, and the bartenders just came over at the end. We had a 4 o'clock licenses. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. We never had a crowd like this in years on the first floor, and the money that we made.
Sure.
And you know, they tipped me. They didn't have to, but I mean, my purse was open.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I had to pay my
Wouldn't
bills.
say no, yeah.
No, right.